Is it ever OK to pinch your child to punish them? Well, presenter Gemma Atkinson has sparked a whole debate and a backlash as well for saying that she pinched her one-year-old son. Here's what she said about it on Instagram.
Tiago's going through that phase at the minute where he's nipping and biting. I said, and he really nipped me the other day, so I went like this back to him. I said, hey, we don't nip. I didn't... I mean, as if I would.
So, is pinching the right way or even a way to discipline your children? Well, podcast host and father of two, Marvyn Harrison, says there should never be a reason for physical discipline. But Danni Nicholls says she bit her son to teach him a lesson. I think we better hear how that came about, you biting your son.
Put it into context. So we were going through a really difficult phase with biting. It was getting, what I would say, out of control. Yeah. And at the time, we were in a public area, and he latched, and I mean latched, onto the nose of my, luckily, nephew at the time, and
probably unlucky nephew.
Well, yeah. Luckily it wasn't a stranger.
With his teeth, he
with his teeth into his nose, drawing blood and gripped on. And I, in a panic, nipped the end of his finger to get him off like a latched-on dog.
And did it work?
He released, thankfully. The mess of my nephew's nose was quite bad, and obviously my son had absolutely no marks whatsoever. Because
but you weren't teaching him there. You were actually kind of... It was an emergency.
It was a reaction, yeah, exactly. But either way...
Did he stop biting in the future?
I think the whole event was a massive trauma to him, and yes, he did stop. He never bit again after that day. And leading up to that day, it was a big deal. Now, you've got to remember, you're juggling multiple children. I had 3 children at that point. I hadn't had my 3rd child. I was pregnant with my 3rd child, but obviously looking after my nephew. Of course. So I had 2 babies in a double buggy, and my son was a toddler. I think this is an extreme version of... let's be honest, I'm not here to advocate violence towards children. We know it's wrong. Full stop.
But...
However, we are trying to discipline our children, and we shouldn't be mum-shaming, which is what this is, because she hasn't hurt that child, she hasn't marked that child. I think this is mum-shaming at its finest.
Marvyn, kids have to learn consequences, don't they? I think what Danni is describing is her way of showing... And certainly I think that's what Gemma's saying, is trying to teach them a consequence. Is that ever right?
Well, you said the word consequence, she used the word discipline, and that's a completely different thing. When you talk about a consequence, yes, sitting on a naughty step, having a reflective conversation, having a stern finger in the face and being like, no, you don't do that, it's completely different to hitting, flicking, biting and pinching your children. And what I'm saying is that if your children are supposed to be loving and trusting of you the most in the world, and you cause them physical harm as a way to control them, what does that say about the relationship and their trust with everybody else?
all know, Marvyn,
so it becomes really important that when you're dealing with your children, when you're dealing with your children, you deal with them in a particular way. What it sounds like is that Gemma was out of capacity and she was stretched, which can happen in parenting. So you're right about parental guilt.
Oh, it happens every single day.
But what I'm saying is you cannot aspire, you cannot promote, and you cannot sit there and justify it as a correct action, as a correct way of correcting their behaviour, because all you're doing is showing them exactly what they've done to somebody else and doing it to them.
OK, we had a debate in the newsroom about how hard is too hard.
Yes.
And what the list is. And we were actually quite surprised. You've got a camera there, haven't we?
As it happens.
Yeah, as it happens.
I have one.
Just say that I think you have to pinch quite hard to get a red mark.
Yes.
Where do you want me to pinch you on the cheek?
Well, I mean...
That's a fleshy area that's exposed.
which cheek are we talking about?
Let's go for the one on the face.
Do it.
Right, OK, so I'm going to pinch you. Is that quite hard?
No.
It isn't?
Ow!
OK.
Ooh. Do you know what it is? It's the shock factor.
Now, you can see there that there is a red mark.
Well, exactly.
It's not lasted, though.
What's even more bizarre is we would never advocate to do this for children. We do adult to adult. We would never do this. So doing it to children feels even more bizarre.
I think when you're talking about a 1-year-old, I think there's nothing wrong with showing a 1-year-old that it hurts. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
A 1-year-old is a person in development and actually taking the time to actually communicate that to them. 1-year-olds do understand.
You must be perfect having all this time, Marvyn.
They get those types of things.
All this wonderful time
that you've got. So I think often what ends up happening is parents don't choose to communicate effectively. But also, children see their parents. Your child is a direct mirror of you. and the environment that you create in the home. So if they see those types of things, you behave in that way, they're more likely to continue.
Are we actually comparing pinching to punching? What are we talking about here? Well, this is literally... I think we need to get some perspective, Marvyn. I think that's what we're missing here. This has been absolutely blown out of all proportion.
Do not do it to a child. What? Fundamental basics. Do not. You would never go up to an adult and pinch them and be like, "You hurt my feelings, so I'm going to hurt yours," and we sit and justify it around the table.
It wasn't done. It wasn't done as retaliation for hurting someone's feelings.
Absolutely, is someone being out of control. No, it wasn't done in retaliation for hurting someone's feelings. And not having control of their home and their children. And I'm not blaming them. I'm saying that you have to aspire to do better than that.
The thing is,
OK, so let's say your child hit another child hard and they cried.
Yep.
I can see that it would take a lot for a parent to then hit their child back in retaliation. Well, wait for a second. But there is a phase that kids go through with biting and pinching where you wonder if they know what it feels like. And I think that's what you're talking about. Is there any justification even then?
Because actually what is actually happening is they're expressing themselves in different ways, and you have to actually find out what the root cause of it, because the actual root cause doesn't disappear because you tell them that it hurts. They still have those feelings. So if it's whether they're fighting over a toy, fighting over food, what actually is going on is about separating them from that, checking in with them what's going on,
wouldn't this be wonderful? Wouldn't this be wonderful if we could say to a one-year-old, like, let's just check in on how you feel?
I do it. I do it myself with my two children.
Are you implying I don't?
I have no idea.
Are you implying
I'm telling you I do it. I'm telling you it works. My children don't go around hitting anybody else. I've never had to physically harm my own children.
Your children have never fought between themselves.
And so as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a way to do it around it.
Siblings have never fought between themselves. What's the age gap between your children? Because my boys, 18 months apart, did nothing but fight. Physically? Nothing but physically fight.
The thing I find hard here, Marvyn, if your child is about to step into the road and you pull them back... If your child is about to touch something really hot or put their finger in a plug and you pull them back, you aren't only protecting them, you're also wanting them to remember not to do it again.
Yes.
And if you pull them back hard or you pull them away...
What happens is, if those things start to happen, and you create fear now about going across the road, or fear about walking along the street...
They should have fear of running out in the road.
Irrational fear about doing those things.
No, they should be frightened of running into the road,
What you actually should be doing, if you can have the message communicated...
Guys, there's lots of comments coming in from people.
No, absolutely, but you can do it with just words. You don't need to yell at them, you don't need to scream at them, you don't need to create a fear in them of you.
You do need them to be frightened of running out in the road, Marvyn.
Fear of the road is different to fear of the parent. You shouldn't make your children scared of you.
They need to be frightened of hot surfaces.
I think there's a difference between making the child scared of you, making the child scared of the situation, according to our viewers. Is it wrong for parents to use pinching as punishment? Emma says yes. It sends mixed messages to children if you're telling them not to pinch and then you pitch them. Much better to show and reward the behaviour you do want, which is what you're saying. Bernie says parents should be allowed to discipline their child how they think best. Jane says there was no intention by Gemma of her hurting her child. She was showing him how it felt, trying to nip it in the bud. It's a tricky one, isn't it? And
can I just say, I was actually frightened as a parent to come on to national television and talk about disciplining my child. What kind of world have we become where you can't have an open discussion about what you feel is a good way to keep your children safe?
We are having an open discussion, but it doesn't work. Historically, we have seen what's happened.
Well, we know that. We know violence doesn't work. But this isn't violence.
And because of that type of abuse, many generations of people have been growing up completely in fear of their parents. That doesn't work when you have young adults and teenagers.
You do have to have an element of fear of your parents.
My 18-year-old nephew
you're both very passionate and lots of people are listening to your comments, but we're in a pinch now for time, I'm afraid. Jamie Borthwick is waiting to talk to us along with his partner, Michelle Shackers. Thank you so much, both of you. Is your cheek OK?
It's really
good. I did have my permission.